Welcome back to another episode of Between Sundays, the podcast where we jump into conversations that just need to be had. I've got with me my co-host, Maxine.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got some returning guests, Pastor Dave Sylvain and our worship pastor, Kacie Sylvain.
Hello.
And we're going to dive into a conversation that is really interesting to me anyway. We're going to talk about drive. We're going to talk about ambition. We're going to talk about how they are good things, but could they ever be a bad thing? So drive, ambition, let's talk about it.
Living between Sundays.
So Theo, tell me a little bit more about your music teacher. You've talked about this before in the past, and I know it's shaped a little bit about what you're thinking about with drive and ambition. So
yeah, so growing up, I had a music teacher. My parents found him when I was 9.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, at 9 years old, this guy just, he preached over and over again. You could do whatever you want to do if you work hard enough.
Mm.
Told me about how he grew up in a home where his father had, I think he's like a second grade education, and his mother had like a third grade education, and all the children went to college, right? Because like they just instilled discipline, hard work, all these things. And my parents were, very much the same way. Like you can do whatever you put your mind to. Like every parent just about tells their kid that. Or they should anyway.
Mm.
And so growing up in that atmosphere, I got to this place where I value hard work. I value the discipline. I value the grit. As I got into my mid-20s, it kind of hit me that there is a space where that can become, you can start chasing that more than the things that actually matter.
Yeah.
Just I'm going to work hard. I'm going to accomplish this thing. I'm going to set this goal, and almost kind of you never wake up and smell the roses. You never take time to build things with people and whatnot. So I kind of wanted to bring that conversation here. It's like, what does it look like in different areas of life where that ambition is needed, and where do we cross the line to where it can become, an idol almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. In your life, what have you noticed? What have you seen when it comes to ambition?
Yeah. I think the conversation we had a while back is that like everything that is in God's kingdom that is good is also in Satan's kingdom on the bad side. So I think about that, like ambition is something that can be good, or drive is something that can be good. But then the ambition, the power, the attachment, that is kind of what drains us and gets us into bad places. And for me, I think I've seen this, prior to like being on this walk. I think I've always been somebody like a hard worker. I've always been someone who felt like I'm going to pull myself up. I'm going to do it all on my own. Like if you're not going to help me, that's okay. I'm going to figure it out. I've never been someone to like back down from hard tasks or things. I think I get that a bit from my mom. She's like really hard worker. And then my grandfather for sure, who was very, very we're talking about a guy who came from Puerto Rico when he was 18 years old.
Wow.
Not knowing the language, and was able to build a business and that's still around today. Like 40 years later, that business is still thriving today. And like I think about that determination to be able to do that here is insane. But it comes at a cost, right? And so when I look at myself, I think the way that I've been able to navigate it post, I guess, like knowing Jesus is trying to move as the Holy Spirit wants me to move, as opposed to just trying to build things for no reason, right? And so I think there are people who don't understand like my trajectory, like they would have looked at what I'm working or what I'm doing now as a waste because, you went to school for this or you went to school for that, that your degrees are in this, blah, blah. And they're expecting to see this other thing. But for me, I've been completely consumed by who Jesus Christ is and the gospel. And so like my ambition looks very different now than it did before. But yeah, there have been times in my life where you're just exhausted because you're chasing after what whoever they is telling you is the right thing to do. And then you get there, you achieve that level of success and you're still unhappy. You still don't have all the things.
Yeah.
So
Case, as a wife, as a mom, what are some things you can share as far as looking out, seeing other wives, moms, seeing media, whatever, tell you this is what you should chase. This is what you should.
It's hard. It's hard to find your own ambition when you have, like you said, social media and all of that, like coming in and what you're seeing. it's really hard to kind of find your own ambition. Like, I want hers because she seems like she's a great mom, or I want hers because it seems like they have a great marriage. Like, you kind of try to take on somebody else's before trying to find your own. What do you want to do? What do you drive to be like for yourself, for your husband, for your kids? I think for me, growing up, I didn't really see myself doing one thing. Like, I didn't know. I didn't really want to be a doctor or a lawyer or anything. I've always been just kind of somebody who stuff just happens. Like, it just is. Like, people ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. I have no idea. I've never had an answer to that. And I felt bad for not having an answer to that. I mean, I got asked it probably 8-9 months ago as an adult, and I still don't have an answer for that, because whatever comes my way, I either know because the Lord gives me an inkling, nope, that's not it, or I try it. And I'm either good at it or bad at it. And that looks very different in all of the different seasons of life that I've gone through. So
That's good.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's great. It's great. Dave, what about you? What are some things you've noticed? So I'm just gonna start off by saying, when I met you 7 years ago, you were like half of what you are right now. You were you were a skinny dude, and I've watched you like bust your hump in the gym over the last few years, right? That's a good thing, right? And you had to be, what drove you to that?
Well, it's funny because when I was 18 and 19, I was even way bigger than I am now.
Really?
And I realized that ambition at that time, that desire to be that way, had the wrong motivation. And a quick little story about my journey, just to give you backdrop. I was not a Christian when I decided that I was going to get into bodybuilding. So for me, it was all like vanity. I just wanted to be huge. I figured that would make me more attractive, or, you know, I don't know, give me some sort of persona. Like, I could be like the people that I saw in the magazines or in movies or whatever else. Like, I wanted that kind of look. I wanted that sort of attention. I kind of wanted to be awesome, and figured like, oh, this will help me be awesome. And people would be like, look at this guy. And that was my motivation. And then I got saved shortly into that journey. And then I'm starting to wrestle with this new kind of conviction. And if you ever watched and you've become a Christian, then you know that things begin to shift on the inside of you, and that your conscience becomes awakened and enlivened by the Holy Spirit. And he starts to speak to you, and he starts to give you these, I don't know, if you don't hear words, you feel things, and you have a knowing. And I knew that this was vanity, that my ambition to be a bodybuilder had nothing to do with any sort of goal or longevity or health. It wasn't about that. It was just about being, you know, really, really big and sexy and all that. That's all it was. So, and there was, by the way, there's nothing.
As you chuckle.
I mean, during that time, we
were dating.
So, I mean, it worked a little bit, a lot of it. No, it had nothing to do with that. She didn't fall in love with me because of the bodybuilding. In fact, that was a weird part of who I was at the time. I was like walking around with a cooler everywhere I went and eating like 4,000 calories a day and way too many sandwiches. It was outrageous.
I would tell him, that thing cannot come where we're going.
It was embarrassing. It was ridiculous. And I just realized that it was a bad ambition. So then I just kind of did nothing for a long time. That was like, I don't know, 2005 or something like that.
Really
2005
when I started
I finished.
to have kids.
So, and then, you know, we get married, and then we end up having kids. And through that whole process, I really didn't work out at all. I was just like big from being big once, and just carried that through until way, way later, until my late 30s. And then pandemic happened, and we were super unhealthy. And I realized that, like, man, for the first time in my life, I was having aches and pains, and I was getting tired doing simple physical things. And I used to love the feeling of being really strong. Yeah. And I always had that like dad strength, and the dad bod for sure. And I just thought, hey, you know, I got to do something to be healthier. So the ambition shifted, and it was in a rightful place, I think. And that kind of, for me, is what ambition is really about. This is the danger that Max brought up,
Mm-hmm.
that there's a good thing, that ambition can be good, and there's a way it can be bad. And it comes down to the motivation. The why behind your ambition is the deciding factor of whether it's healthy or unhealthy ambition.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out what that why is for whatever the endeavor is that you want.
Yeah.
And this is historical, ironically, that there's something called the Protestant work ethic. Have you ever heard of this before? So if you think about when the Protestant Reformation happened, it kind of was birthed out of that, with all the Protestants that eventually came to the United States and started to settle here. It was like they were entrepreneurs, they were go-getters, they were doers, you know. A lot of the founding fathers were Protestant in their faith, not all of them, but a lot of them were. And there was just this idea that something about this value system, this religious belief, resulted in a whole lot of activity. People that just seemed to be tireless and seemed to try to create new things and things that would benefit the whole. And that's where that term was coined loosely. I don't have all the exact facts of who coined it, but there's something about our faith that should generate action.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because Jesus gave us all of these commands that don't just stop with us as individuals, but always are pointing outward, trying to make a difference in society.
Yeah.
And that bore witness with me on a personal level, you know, many thousands of years after Jesus walked the planet, where the Holy Spirit was talking to me about why I wanted to be a bodybuilder, you know, and checking my heart and making me realize that all the resources and time and all the stuff I was investing could have easily been redirected into building into my new wife, and then soon after that, my kids, and then building into the kingdom of God, all the skills that I would need to serve him, you know? So that's kind of, for me, what I think about with ambition, and how easily you can make an idol out of just about anything, and how it can be our hearts. I think somebody said that our heart is like an idol factory. It might have been Martin Lloyd-Jones, one of the great British or English preachers. I think he said that, and he's right. We can take a good thing and we can get obsessed over it, and we can lose the right motivation and lose sight of it and turn it into an idol and start to worship it instead of God. So I definitely know all about that. I have been guilty of that a million times, not just the bodybuilding thing all those years ago, but even more recently, you know, making idols out of things like a call to ministry, or desiring a different job, or whatever. You know, you can make idols out of that, you know?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to blur the lines between things like excellence and perfectionism.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's too easy in all areas of life. And I'm guilty of this. My wife is probably watching and saying amen. Because I'm the guy that it's really easy for me to look and say, like, well, here's the standard. And this isn't the standard. This might be Theo's, dreams, and sometimes if I'm not careful, it's really easy for me to look at that as like, no, this is where we got to go at all costs. Like, this is where we got to get to. And I listen to people, and I watch people ruin relationships, ruin churches, ruin job opportunities, ruin whatever, based on you're so tunnel vision, so focused on getting to that goal that you miss out on everything else, and you ruin things in the path.
There's so much to say about perfectionism. It's a huge barrier for people to even get started. You can get paralyzed in your idolatry of perfection, first of all, where it's like, why haven't you accomplished any of the goals that you said you want to accomplish? Oh, I just want to wait until it's perfect. Well, guess what? You're never going to start, and you'll never finish, because nothing's ever perfect. That's an impossible standard. And a lot of entrepreneurs talk about this, because this is so common with people, that they're like, have this crazy ideal, and they have to be chopped down to size and reminded that, like, no, you just have to start and then be more incremental, and just do it, and be clear on the why behind why you're trying to do it in the first place. There's this like huge movement right now in business and entrepreneurial circles, hustle culture. We've heard about this. It's been going on for a while. And this is one of the core tenets, is like, just start, just get going. And there's some healthy ambition here. And I think it's a good thing, you know,
Yeah.
because it's like, no, you can have agency. I think God's good with us having agency. He gave us agency. So we have the ability to decide that what we want to do, and we have the ability to like change our future and to take advantage of all of the freedoms he's given us. We have the ability to do that. Where a lot of people have believed the lie that, you know, they're just dealt the card that they're gonna have, you know, because of where they were born, or who they were born under, or what language they spoke, or whatever, a whole bunch of different reasons. They'll think, oh, well, I have no chance in life. Like, I'm just going to be
Stuck.
I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And there's this really cool movement where it's like rediscovering ambition in a way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to loop it in. But there's idolatry all over that too. The hustle culture thing, you have the flip side of it where people are just like doing so much, trying everything and anything, and there's no focus, and they're just working 23 out of 24 hours a day kind of thing, and they're just burning out. And it's like, whoa. Like, here's an example of the yin and the yang of this ambition thing. It's like it can be helpful, and if your why is clear and you're being responsible with it, it can be good.
Yeah, I always like cringe a little bit when I hear like, oh, I gotta hustle. It's particularly in like Christian spaces and everything, because I think, again, coming the shadow and the light that you were just talking about, what we are called to as Christians is stewardship, right? And the shadow of that is the hustle, right? Of trying to do all of the things all at once. And, you know, if I don't get up and if I don't make the thing happen, it won't happen. What I really think we're supposed to do is, what are we doing with the talents that God is giving us, right? How are we stewarding that? And then if I do that effective and well, then where does God want me to go next? Puts us in a place where we're still pursuing, right? There's still this drive to do everything I do with excellence because I'm doing it for the Lord, right? But doesn't have this sort of like self-centered panic around what I can produce all of the time. There's no rest in that. And I think then that becomes the idolatry always comes in the extremes, right? Because then you have people who just check out, right? The quiet quitting. I'm gonna show up to work every day and I'm not gonna do nothing but whatever's on here. Well, that's not, if you're a Christian, that's also not what you're called to do either. Right. You're supposed to go above and beyond you should look so different from everyone else in whatever field you're in that you stand out, that people begin to question, why are you so different, right? So I agree, there's both sides there, but if we're looking at these extremes constantly, and I will say I'm a recovering hustler, right? Because in my 20s, I felt I was drowning in insane amount of student debt. And I didn't have help. It's me. I gotta figure this out, right? I am stressed out about this. I gotta figure out how to pay rent, how to pay transportation, food, bills, blah, blah. I didn't want to default because I don't have my credit, all this stuff. I had a burden. I didn't have I just never gonna pay attention to it and I won't think about it. I didn't have that in me. So I worked 3 jobs all the way through, barely sleeping, just full-time teacher, picking up any extra little shifts that I could there. I was coaching, I was subbing, I was doing admissions, I was working at a restaurant. And I remember being like, I'm that girl. Like, this is cool. Like, you know, like, I'm like literally taking a 15-minute nap between leaving work on Friday from teaching to 15 minutes to that I have to go to work all night at a restaurant, and being like, look at me, I can fall asleep anywhere. This is great. Like, you know, I'm thinking it was a flex, like a hard flex. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like
looking back,
listen, my flex is right now. Okay. This is where we are.
Very much a product of your environment. You know, you are the personification of New York.
Yes, I was New York.
You're just saying.
New York City. And but what does it do over time, right? It ages us, right? We're exhausted, we're cranky. I mean, I don't know how long it's been since you've been to New York City, but tend to be not the most pleasant people, right?
Everybody's stressed out.
Everybody's stressed. Everybody's running late. Everything is crowded. And you feel that. I remember when I moved to Jersey from Brooklyn. So I was living in Brooklyn, working in Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. And then I moved to New Jersey, so commuting the opposite way. And I would literally feel, as I was going through the tunnel, the Holland Tunnel, like breath come, like as I was leaving New York City into Jersey, and I'd just go, like I'd feel it, right? The tension of like all of the crowd, of all of the hustle, of everyone feeling like whatever they're doing is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that is the dangerous part. And I think if we put our parameters of like, whatever I'm chasing, is it actually helping people, right? Not that can't be distorted too, it can be, but that is a first check. Or is this about me?
Yeah.
Is this solely about how I feel about my title, about my recognition, about what people are going to say about me, all of that stuff? Those are the wrong motivations. And I think those are going to drain us over time.
Yeah, it makes me think of where we get the values, like where do we get our why, and what stories are we telling ourselves, or what stories are we listening to? Where are we getting that? And I've been thinking through it, and like culture is a big deal. Culture is huge as far as what gets in and what we end up listening to and seeing and believing.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably, you said that's just not who I was. I just didn't have it in me to just sit back and just be like, oh, whatever. And like, that's why I'm teasing you. And that's like the personification of New York, but that's a story. That's a cultural narrative that comes out of that city. It is the Big Apple. It is the place of new beginnings. It is, you told the story of, you said your dad, right? Grandpa that has started the store. Like people from all over the world have looked at New York City. You know, if I could get to Ellis Island and I can get into New York, then I can do anything I want and I can create the life I want to live. Like generations, this country is built on these stories. And it's an incredible place to be, and it's so true in that. But how does that creep in and eventually inform subconsciously the decision making of generations of kids that come after it, and not necessarily for the bad, but a little bit to the point where you're like, I got to do this thing. I got to do this thing now. I got to do this 3 jobs, forget sleep, you know, hopefully I make it. I'll be all right. I'm going to grind this thing out. I'm going to hustle. It was both gave you a gift, but on the flip side, you might have never stopped doing that. And a lot of people don't. They get all of the thing, like they pay off the student debt, and then they find a home to build that's really, really huge. And now they have more than the student debt that they once had. But now there's an asset, but there's a debt, and, you know, and then it's like their standard of living continues to grow to the point where they never fully are released from the crazy labor. They're like, they set a standard for themselves of, oh, I can work 80 hours a week. That's no big deal to have the life that I want. And then they realize that the life that they want doesn't really feel like the life that they want. So how can we, this is a question I've always asked, at least for years now, of myself and of people that are in their congregation, especially where we're in DC, which in a lot of ways is very similar to New York, and a lot of the same narratives are here. People are hustling like constantly, and they are making a lot of money, and they have a lot of things, and it's like they're focusing on one of the 3 verbs that control humanity, and it's have. But the other 2 are equally as important, which is be and do. Like, think about that. The 3 verbs: to have, to be, and to do. And if you focus on just all the things that you want to have, and that's your why, is that I want to get things, then you got to do a lot to uphold that. And you'll maybe do anything, and sometimes at the expense of what you'd prefer to do and of who you prefer to be. So you'll suddenly lose sight of who you want to be because you're just doing whatever it takes to get what you want to have. You see what I'm saying? But the order should be that you decide who you're going to be, and you let that story inform the rest. Because once you know who you are or who you're going to be, and that starts with knowing who you're created in the image of, and what that person has to say about you. And that's my Christian bent on it, which I think is the best way to understand reality, is to understand that we're created in the image of God, and that we're made in his likeness, and that he's blessed us and he wants to have a relationship with us, all those things. Once we know that, then that informs our character and how we treat ourselves and treat other people and how we order our days. Then it goes into what we do. Right? Which means, and there's so many options of what we can do as far as work or how we spend our time. And then the have part suddenly becomes less important, because you realize that life is more about who we are
Mm-hmm.
and what we do than it is about what we
What
have.
we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing is everything we're talking about, and you kind of started to take us there just now, but it's not just a cultural problem in the world, so to say. Like, this actually creeps into the church, right? And all of us work for a church,
Mhm.
and everything we've talked about, hustle culture and, you know, chasing platforms, chasing recognition, all that is in the church. It's not just in New York, in the, you know, secular world, or in DC and politics and all that. It's in the church, right? So I want to take just a couple of minutes and kind of talk about that for a little bit. Kacie, you're our worship pastor here,
Yeah.
and we're not going to name any names, but I'm sure you have seen over the years and are seeing now people that want to step on stage just
Yeah.
for recognition.
Yeah.
And I can remember that was one thing that made me sick.
Oh, it is. It is. And it's hard to talk to people who have that bent because they think that they are everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have so much to offer the body, and maybe you do, but your motive right now
Right.
is not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've lived in the church my whole life, basically. So I have seen the downfall of what placing your identity in being a worship leader, placing your identity in being a senior pastor,
Yeah.
having it solely on those things instead of multifaceted. I am a worship pastor, but I am first a husband. I am first a father, whatever pastor it is. I've seen the downfall of a lot of that. And that is some place that I never want to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly reminding myself, like, don't take any of this for granted. Like, just be humble. I think some of it can be you want the praise and you want the glory of the position.
Yeah, you
But
run
when
into
you
this a lot.
I do. When you step into that position, you have no idea what's on the back end
Yeah.
of being a worship pastor, of being a senior lead pastor, or whatever. Like, you have so much that you deal with
Yeah.
that, you know, I am in this role, and I try to help and train up other people to take this position someday, or to go to another church to do this someday, and try and show them, like, you are not prepared right now for what you're about to step into. But when you're in it, God is going to prepare you for those moments. And that's what you have to look at, and that's what needs to continue to motivate you, is God's going to have me every step I take forward, and as I learn.
So trying to stay humble and not chase platforms, names, all that kind of stuff. All this while also pushing excellence, right? And so it's funny because Kacie's not only our worship pastor, she's also our events coordinator. So she is always on that edge of pushing people to do better, to be better. How do you personally resolve that in your mind, in your heart, of you're pushing everybody to have deadlines, to sing better, to play better, to, you know, lead better, all these things. How do you balance that with not being the perfectionist in ministry?
It's very difficult. It is for me, because my personality is perfection. Like, that's what I have always wanted. And it's not right. Like, I know that. I know that I have a problem with that. And so I have to catch myself in not just taking over. Like, I can just do it all. Because I know I can get it done. I know I can get it done in this time. I don't have to do it. Like, I have a way to do it. So I can't do that. A lot of the time, I sit on my hands, and I have to allow things to happen the way that that person's doing it. So if it's events, I have to allow that person to call a bus company and get a bus for me for trunk or treat. And, you know, I have to let them have that conversation, but I would have it differently. Or up on stage, like, if I'm leading a song and I know the congregation responds really well to the song and the way that I do the song,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to take it in a different direction and they're going to do something different. And I really don't know how the congregation's going to follow you. You kind of, I have to weigh whether to let this person kind of feel the fallout of whatever that decision is, or do I really need to stand up and say no and protect?
Yeah.
It's a lot of weighing. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I step in and say? What do I step in and not do?
Yeah.
Um,
I've seen you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to have people with great heart
yeah.
audition to do worship, but their
Yes.
skill isn't there.
Yeah.
And you have to hold the standard of being like, hey, we have a standard to reach as far as performance is concerned. You know, heart's great, performance is here. But then you have the other problem with people that come in and they're like amazing, but you can tell that there's something off about their why.
Yep.
And you have to say to both people that they're not ready.
Yeah.
And that's how I see you do this all the time.
Yeah.
And you have to put on a brave face and have that conversation.
You do. You really
Kind
do.
of be the bad gal.
Yeah. It's not easy, especially someone who hates confrontation.
I think you said something like really important too. I think sometimes, particularly in churches, like people see a fraction of what goes into Sunday service, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
whatever experience they're having at church. And so they're seeing the finished, polished sort of
Yes.
product. And so when they're after a stage or performance, they're after just that piece, not understanding that there is a burden and there's a responsibility
thing.
to all of these roles, that it is not just we wake up and we show up here and it's good.
Yeah.
And so when I'm looking at people meeting with women or whoever, I'm looking at motive. I'm trying to find motive. You can't always find it, but for the most part, I'm asking those types of questions as to like why you want to do something. What if you didn't get what you were after? Are you willing to do something else?
Yeah.
And like that kind of tells me a little bit more about where their heart is, because you should
Absolutely.
be wanting to serve anywhere in the house of the
Absolutely.
Lord, even if you feel like you are the best whatever singer,
right.
pastor, preacher, whatever the case may be. I will take someone's heart over the talent, right? And now that's to say, I don't, Kacie, you're incredible, right? I don't want any random person up there, but also like I get the benefit of walking with you all and seeing how you actually live life, right? So that makes me comfortable in that space. But I've seen that too. Like I'll see leadership qualities in people, but then they get too excited. And so they want to take off and run. And I want to get there before God even gets me there.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a test for me too, because like sometimes, okay, you have to know, yes, I should tell this person I see something in them, and maybe that elevates them, but sometimes it brings them down because all of the pure motives kind of come up to the surface. Sometimes I do it as a test. I'm like, I see this thing in you, because I do, but I want to see how you're going to take what I've just said. Are you going to be like, oh, cool, now I'm going to like go behind the scenes and continue working on my relationship with God and get clear there on that calling? Or am I desperately running ahead and trying to take for myself that thing? It's the same thing when people get prophetic words, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, somebody gave me a prophetic word that I'm meant to be a worship leader, pastor one day. Okay, so now I got to get there. And then tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then if the church doesn't want to give me the space here, I'm at the wrong church. And I got to go find the church that is going to put me on the stage today, because I got this prophetic word
my
and
gosh.
I got to make it happen.
This is you're getting too real now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
These
I
are
had-
actual situations for me that I've seen.
It is. I have lived it. I had a moment years ago when we went to a concert, and at that concert,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
they had people like positioned in the crowd, and you didn't really know it, but they had people positioned in the crowd praying for that section. And they would just go up to the person that they had a word for and would just give it to them. And I've never been to a concert like that since. It was a great experience, but this woman came up and she asked if she could pray for me, asked the permission. Yeah, go ahead. So she started saying these things, and she said, I see this kaleidoscope, and pieces and different colors are moving, and when all the pieces come into place, there's this box that's there, and it has a lock. And when all the pieces come into place, the key will open, and you're going to open up a whole plethora of worship music, of writing music. I haven't written a song a day in my life. I don't know if it wasn't for me or if it wasn't for that moment, but I still am like, I don't really know if that was for me. Like, I don't really know if you should have said that. And since that moment, when I have something that I want or think I need to say to somebody, I will wait until I get this feeling that is just undeniable. Like,
It's coming out.
I am either going to throw up or I need to run to the bathroom. Like, it has to come out of me.
Yeah.
And that's when I know, like, okay, I really do need to go up to this person.
See, but sorry, didn't
No,
mean to
go ahead.
interrupt, but
No, go
but that's because at your core, it's not about being seen. And I'm not going to
Absolutely
speak to the person from years ago. I don't know them.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about prophecy and things like that, so many people want to be used, right? They want to be used by God, and that's a good thing in general. We should desire this. Paul says eagerly desire the gifts, right? But the moment we start desiring the gift and the usage of the gifts more than we desire the giver, like that's where the problem comes in, right? And so there are these people, I've had it here where someone will come to me and they'll say, I left my other church because they wouldn't put me on platform. And it's kind of that like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'm not putting you on platform here
don't
either.
come talk to
You know what I
me.
mean? Like, they would tell me about how they were so spiritually gifted and they wrote this book and wrote that book and they've been to other heavenly realms that I've never seen and I've never been a part of, but they haven't, and I'm like, maybe you have, right? But here's the thing for me. If God really did call you to preach, teach, lead, prophesy, all that kind of stuff, and he hasn't put you in that position yet, it's for a reason. He's got you in obscurity because he wants to train you. He wants to polish some things. He wants to. So then the more we go chasing after these things, even if it started out, as we've been saying this whole time, started out as a good thing. God, I want to serve you. I look at young and budding preachers who are like, I just want to preach the gospel. I just want to preach the gospel. I just want to see people saved. And it's like, that's great. But the moment you get to a place where it's like, I just want to be in front of people saying things that make people clap at me and say, oh, you're so awesome. It's a fine line, right? And sorry, had to say all that because the reason why when you said like for you, it has to get to the point where I'm about to throw up. I have to, well, that's because at your core, you're like, I don't desire to be the person seen, right?
Absolutely.
It's interesting. So we the preaching cohort thing, we have a class that we do. And I sit there and I say this to you guys all the time. You guys roll your eyes at me, but whatever. But at my core, I don't feel like I'm a preacher. I get up there, I literally feel like I'm going to throw up. Not because I don't know the word of God, not because I'm not passionate about the word of God, but because I understand the responsibility of it, like the weight of what that is. And so like that terrifies me. Like it does. So I'm sitting there the whole time, I'm fighting actual fear of like, am I going to say something wrong? However, if God is pushing me to do something, I have to do it. Even if I'm trembling, even if I'm shaking, even if I don't get to like sit down and not show up. But again, it's when he does it, when he opens the door. It's not me trying to position, or anyone should be trying to position themselves. Oh, if I can get closer to this person and say that I'm good at this. Well, I think we've talked about this on a different episode, but like my little pet peeve is like when somebody introduces themselves with their apostle title. I'm like, stop. Like maybe you are, sure, whatever, but like, who are you? You're just like a person in Christ. Like, tell me, just talk to me like a human being without the title. And like, I will give you respect because you're created in the image of God. Like you giving me your title is not going to demand anything more from me in that moment. And so I think it's coming back to kind of what you were saying. Like it's not about the moment of trying to be seen in anything or trying to make it happen. I think that's my bone to pick with the hustle culture. It's like, I have to make it happen as opposed to like, let me steward well every season that I'm in and see what doors open.
That was my life. Like what you just said, let me steward every season for the door to open, because it's been a long time that I've wanted to be a worship leader. And I sat many years under worship leaders and in positions where in my heart, I'm like, Lord, I know I could do that better, but I'm going to submit because I'm not really submitting to them. I'm submitting to you. And that's so real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So real.
it's one of those fine lines, right? Back to the hustle culture and being obedient to God's timing, all that kind of stuff. Even to this day, when I preach a sermon or if we upload a clip or whatever, there's a temptation to like, I want this to go viral, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I always have to check myself. Why do you want it to go viral?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why do
Yep.
is it because Holy Spirit said something and you want that to reach somebody, or do you just want to go viral?
Right.
With every our YAC recordings, right? We
Mhm.
always want to sound our best. We always want to
Right.
sing our best. And y'all know me, the worship team, they call me the diva. I'm the one that's
Yes.
going to pick out every
He
little
is.
thing. But okay, why are you picking out every little thing? Is it because you want it to be excellent because it represents our God and it's going to go out to people? Or do you want it to be excellent because you want to look good?
Mhm.
And that one sour note or that one, offbeat thing doesn't make you look good. It's this fine line in everything you
Mhm.
do and presenting the excellence, but also recognizing that, man, the how people view me, how
Mhm.
people view you is not the goal.
Yeah.
Right. It's that old adage, that old saying, audience of one, right?
Mhm.
Like, do this for an audience of one.
Yep.
And if you truly do this for the audience of one, like, everything is going to fall in line,
Yeah.
whether you have millions of followers or whatever, or none.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it for the audience of one, that doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Right.
It's a really good
Yeah.
thought. I really struggle with that, man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's tough. I love those people that are on Instagram and TikTok and all the places and are just like, this is who I am. And they're
Mhm.
just good with it. And they're also not obsessed with the likes
The numbers and
Yeah.
or the numbers. Like that's a unique person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I hate putting myself on social media.
Mm.
And I hate it that we're out there as much as we are.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, the only reason that we ever did it, it took me years to get comfortable being on camera.
Mhm.
Like, and that didn't happen until we got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It became part of New Life, where you are church.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I hate it because I really do like the hearts and
Mhm.
the thumbs up and the comments. and I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so uncomfortable with like self-promotional
Mhm.
posts
Yeah.
of any kind. And I don't really know why, other than that there's some brokenness down there. But it's those people that are just free enough and disconnected enough, there's something cool going on there for a
Yeah.
lot of them. Because I really do want it to be all about God and God first. And I don't want to make the waters muddy, is a better way of saying it,
Yeah.
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 with people seeing just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or getting hung
Yeah.
up on something that I said that's wrong, or the way my take on something, or my preference, or like my face doesn't move a lot on camera. I looked at that. I've actually noticed that I am not expressive enough. That's hard work. So I'm like, people are going to think that dude's he's preaching the gospel. He's so grumpy. Make him smile. And I'm trying to smile. I'm just not the best person for it. But I feel like that's part of being self-aware, I guess, maybe.
The
And,
irony
it's
of
like,
this is before the cameras
I
start
was just getting
rolling,
ready to say this.
we were all caught in a 30-minute laughing fit
Oh,
because
so
of each
bad.
other's faces.
yeah.
So-
And
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to be camera ready, and Max knows how hard that is for me, and she thinks I look ridiculous when I'm doing it, so she starts laughing at me. But I'm like over here, like the smile character. Like,
Yeah, it was like
trying to-
pasted on.
I was just like,
like an emoji, like
I don't
my
practice.
daughter has like the sticker books that show the emotions, and then
Uh-huh.
you have to pick like the smiling one. You can paste it on the face.
yeah. And I also don't trust myself here. And, like, are there areas in your life that you don't trust yourself around stuff?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't trust myself around the people pleasing, and in relation to the thing that we're called to do in the work. So for me, that's a hot spot. And it comes down to, you guys were just talking about worship
Yep.
and like wanting to be a worship leader for all those years in obscurity, kind of like serving under. And there was this like burden and desire in your heart. Well, I was like not as humble and good as you were. I was like, God had to like beat me down, and he didn't do that, but he had to like give me a season of no
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
to realize that it was my heart that was the problem.
Wow.
Mm.
And it wasn't because I thought I was awesome. It was just because I was so certain that he had called me to that.
Yeah.
And I was so unhappy that I wasn't doing it because I was so sure that it was the thing.
See, that's
Mm.
crazy.
Isn't that weird?
because he did call you to do it. You're doing it now, right?
I
And
know, but
that's
but
just
there
wild
were
to me.
years that didn't happen. I got out
Right.
of Bible school. Here's how it happened. I got out of Bible school and I was so on fire, but also super naive and just, I needed to chill out. I was like cage stage Christian, just like frothing at the mouth. You want to hear the gospel? You want to hear the gospel? I'm going to tell you the gospel. I was just all over the place, and it was a whole problem. And I don't remember what his title was, but this guy basically pulled me in his office and was like, dude, hear yourself. He made me read back something I wrote. I was embarrassed. And he's like, I'm going to conditionally approve you for licensing after hearing you say that you're sorry. He's like, if you hadn't apologized, then I wouldn't be doing this. And he had to conditionally approve me. It was such a humiliating moment, but it was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
But I didn't totally learn the lesson. I got back to where we got out of school. We moved back home. I get back home and I fully expected, because of conversations and stuff, that like when I got home, there was going to be an opportunity at the church. Well, I get there and the church is a mess. And not because I wasn't there, but because the CFO had done some illegal stuff and stole money and had been fired. And then there was like an exodus of a bunch of the staff, and like they were in the middle of this crazy building project that was like unheard of from any church in the area. And they didn't have any money.
Wow.
And steel was just in the yard sitting there, and they had no money to move forward with the project. It was like the worst time.
Wow.
So here I am being like, I can't blame anybody. I'm not mad at people who said there would be a job, and I'm just mad at the situation. And I'm also like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I should have stayed there. I should have stayed at school where there was opportunity, but we made a covenant, the two of us, that we'd move home. You know, if we got pregnant again is what it was. And we did. So we're going to go have a baby at home instead of a baby away from family, which is what we did the first time. Well, I'm mad at the situation. I'm totally like, I shouldn't be doing sales. I shouldn't have to find another job. And I have this like real yucky thing going on inside of me. I've made an idol out of the idea of doing vocational ministry. That's how sad my heart is sometimes, right? Or how sad our hearts can be is that we would let this call become an idol that we'd worship and that we'd get all bent out of shape and mad about.
Yeah.
That's how petty and young and foolish I was. And I needed to be humbled. And God was good enough to supply, as he always is. No surprise that he took care of us through that season. No surprise that I had even more ministry opportunities doing the secular job that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And that God kept showing me over and over, was faithful to show me, prayer opportunities, witnessing opportunities, all sorts of cool things going on. I got to help the church with like things that were important to them that they weren't able to do because they'd have to pay somebody to do it. But I was like, no, I'll do it because I just wanted to do something. And it worked out really, really well. And that was like a 3-year long heart renovation.
Wow.
And you know what's crazy? Literally the week that I settled in my heart, like, you know what? I love this. I can sell stuff and meet people everywhere and be like a covert, undercover, secret agent evangelist guy. That's how, remember, I'm like a child deep down. So that's what I was literally thinking about. I'm like, this is awesome. And God was blessing the work. And because my heart shifted, it seemed like everything was just going so well. And then I got a call from some church to come and serve there in full-time ministry.
That's wild.
And now I was like, oh man, you had to play it like that,
Good
God.
jokes.
See,
Because now I'm like making good money.
yeah.
And I get to be this covert evangelist, secret agent guy. And now you want me to like, how am I going to survive?
That's
and then
interesting.
God's like, oh, hey, look, another idol.
Interesting. See, my story is a little bit different, but similar. You said 3 years. Mine was 4 years. I had just started college and I was 2 years into elementary education and observation hours. I was working at a daycare, found out that's not my calling. Love kids from afar.
Really?
It's not my thing, man. Kudos to all the teachers out there, just not me. So I remember I had just started college and I had started going to this Wesleyan church. I knew very little about Wesleyanism, any of that kind of stuff. And met the pastor. What was that?
We had to Google it.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Met the pastor, found out he was really chill, found out it wasn't some weird cult thing, and found out that it's a Protestant Christian religion, all that good stuff. And what I really loved about this guy was that he was actually a rebel, and he was like, I'm a Jesus follower first, Wesleyan second. And I'm like, I can rock with that, right?
Yeah.
Started going to the church, started volunteering here and there. And I remember when I finally got on staff part-time, when I finally got there, was working, enjoying it, whatnot. And I was like, okay, like I could see myself doing vocational ministry. My process was a 4-year process, but I told God at the beginning, I was like, okay, God, like if you want to keep me at this, it was a small Wesleyan church. It's this little Wesleyan church for the rest of my life. If this is where you're moving, if this is where you want me, then so be it, right? And God's like, all right, I'm going to test you on that, right? So for the next 4 years, I was there and I was learning, I was growing and all the stuff. And I worked a separate job. I worked for UPS because, the church couldn't afford to pay me to be married and have a family and all these things. And similarly, though, we were about 4 years in and 1 year into marriage and 4 years into the church, and got to this place where I'm settled. I could see myself working here, doing part-time at the church and all this, and then literally got the call from UPS saying, hey, we want to bump you. We want to move you here, like a good pay bump, all that stuff, move you up. And I was like, all right, cool. 30 minutes later, I get a call from Robert Hilson saying, hey, you met my dad at a random conference a couple months ago. He told me a little bit about you, whatever. And I'm like, he's like, you ready to do interviews? And so I hang up the phone and I'm just like, God, what the heck? Like there was actually a clear path to like working this job, making good money, management, all this stuff. And then I remember,
I didn't know we had such parallels.
For
We've
real.
been working together for 7 years.
Right though.
I didn't know that part.
Then yeah, man. Then I just remembered praying. I remembered the prayer I had prayed that like, God, where you want me is where I want to be, right? And so then that's what it was. So for me, it wasn't I felt like it was a little bit switched. I wasn't chasing the platform in the beginning, but God did make me walk out what I prayed of, if you want to keep me here at this church, then so be it. And God tested that humility. And that's why even when I got here, I was not chasing anything. For those of y'all that didn't know, I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to do any of this. It was literally, long story, tell us some other time, God opening doors and booting my butt through them.
Yeah.
But it was very much
Crazy.
Very much God, right? All that to say, it's not about chasing the platform, right?
Yeah, I think like God's allergic to people who do that.
God's allergic.
I mean,
Everybody's catching allergies these days, surely.
Yeah.
Like
I like the way you
It's
said that. Some say humbles the proud and exalts the, but I like allergic.
He's just allergic.
Okay, so quick little change in this. What happens when you've got a pastor who is dynamic, right? A worship leader who's dynamic, whatever, person in the secular world who is working marketplace multipliers, we like to call it. They're doing ministry wherever they are. They're awesome, right? And they're not chasing platforms, but the people around them put them on a platform. How do we keep from idolizing people and platforms, even if we're not chasing them ourselves? What comes to mind is you and I were having a conversation about 2819 Church and how he does awesome ministry from what I can see from afar. I don't know him as a man, but I don't have any reason to doubt anything about his character. Great preacher, seems to be a great pastor, all these things. And actually, matter of fact, you tell a story because
Yeah, so apparently they were having service and the service got interrupted by a woman. Basically, I don't know if she claimed to be a prophetess or whatever, but shouting essentially that that everyone was making an idol of this pastor, right? And that it was kind of his fault, I think was implied, but it kind of had a whole firestorm kind of come up because in particular, I'm blanking on his name right now. Philip Anthony Mitchell, yeah. Every time you see him preach, he's kind of always pushing away the attention. He's like, don't pay attention to me. I want you to read your word. Don't pay attention. He's constantly saying that. I mean, the dude dresses in all black, so because he's in mourning about the state of the church. And so also you're not paying attention to what he's wearing and all that stuff. So there's enough of what he says to push away, but yet you do see people around him sort of elevating him and his platform so high. I mean, we're seeing this with Charlie Kirk right now as well, even in his death, unfortunately. Like, again, taking something that is a person that happened, but now kind of elevating it to idol status, right? and that the danger in these things. And I don't think that's what he would have wanted ever. Like
Right.
his whole
No.
thing, I'm trying to point people to Christ,
Yeah.
right? Just as Philip Anthony Mitchell, I'm trying to point people to Christ. And yet people do.
Yeah.
They live and die by what whoever the person says,
Yeah.
and they'll
Yeah.
fight other people, and they'll stop talking to people, and their personality becomes that person.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a dangerous place to be too.
So how do we address that? So as a pastor, how do you address someone who puts either you or other pastors on these pedestals?
Man, I hate it when people act that way around me. And I, for the long line of people who are idolizing me, I need to just say, what are you doing, bro? Like, for real. No, I'm just kidding. I honestly don't have this experience, so I don't know what that's like, except for there's always some people who are, part of the church typically who, want to be close to you, and they might not ever say like, I think you're the greatest or you're the best, but they want a lot of your time and your attention, and they really want to be poured into. And a lot of the time it's like, you gotta just help them understand that you're just like them.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, bro, we're just the same.
Yeah.
And let's sit down and have a conversation about whatever it is, and help them get you off the pedestal of however they assume that like you're connected to God in some other way. I'm always trying to make that clear, whether it's an individual in the church or if it's volunteer teams or whoever. We get there's some particular people in certain churches, I don't know how to say this without offending anybody, but who do this and just really put the pastor at an elevated level.
Yeah.
It's part of the culture of the church,
Mhm.
and most of it I think is out of deference and respect, but it gets weird.
Yeah.
And for those people, I'm always like, whoa. Like, hey, you don't have to refer to me as pastor, and I'm just like you.
Yeah.
I'm just like serving Jesus with you at this. We're the same, and that's how I deal with that. Where it gets messy for me, dude, honestly, is I can straight up put anybody I love on a pedestal, and I struggle with that because when I come to love somebody, I think the very best of them, and as a result, I speak highly about them. And it's not that I'm lying about them; I'm just choosing to highlight the best. And I think there's a good practice in that, but it could come off like I'm idolizing or adoring or whatever. I do that with my wife. I talk about her like she's the best because she is. And then my kids, I do the same thing. But I also talk the same way about like pro athletes that I'm a fan of. And I talk the same way about celebrities that I think are great, and certainly about preachers that I really respect and admire. So I don't know, like I'm not the best to ask. I just love them.
I'm not the best to ask because I'm opposite, right? Patrick, one of our worship leaders, he said this a few weeks ago and it just stuck. And every now and then he'll just say it, or I'll say it back to him. He says, "You're fair to a fault, Theo." He's like, some people are loyal to a fault where they'll just, people they love, they'll just defend even to a fault sometimes. He's like, "Theo, you're just fair to a fault. Like you'll chop anybody down. Like it doesn't matter." And I'm like, you're kind of right, so like this is what comes to mind for me when it comes to, pastors, leaders, and just people we admire. And I've shared this with you before, and I wish I had the scripture reference. I believe somewhere in Exodus where after Moses gets the children of Israel out from slavery, they're in the desert, they're trying to establish who they are as a people. And there's this moment where God speaks to them, right? Where God starts speaking, and it's thunder and it's loud and it's crazy and it's all the stuff that Old Testament God, kind of when he shows up, this is what happens. And there's this moment I read and it just smacked me in the face where they look at Moses and they're like, "You talk to God. Like, we don't want to talk to him. He's too scary." I'm paraphrasing. It's too much. And so from that point on, Moses would, kind of go away, talk to God, come back and and it hit me that today we do that same thing, that we will trade a personal relationship with God for a person that represents God. And they're awesome. They do amazing things, but they're not God, and that platform is not God, right? And so for me, like I said, I can be fair to a fault sometimes, but it's really easy for me to look at someone, even that I admire, and I'm like, well, that's just a man, or that's just a woman. But that also keeps me from, when that person makes a mistake, my world doesn't
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
and my faith in the church doesn't shake, because that's just a man, that's just a woman,
Yeah.
right? And that's something I tend to find hand in hand with when we idolize somebody.
Yeah.
Our world rides on their highs and their lows.
And this is so coming from a mega church. This is exactly what happened, right? The church is built around a personality, a person. That person falls, right? Whatever, and now devastation all the way across the board. And it's one thing to be sad that this happened, right? It's another to be like, I'm no longer Christian anymore. And that's by and large what happened by a lot of people. Now you could argue a whole bunch of things, were they really saved in the first place, how, like, you know, fertile soil, blah blah, all that. I understand that too, but we have to take responsibility in that we were idolizing a man if we're in that space. And if your whole entire faith is crashing based off of the actions of any man, other than Jesus himself, then we have an idol on our hands, you know. And so we have to be able to watch for those things, like address those things. I love here, and Mike has said this too, but like there is a team here of preachers, right? There's 3 of you who communicate regularly, and I know Adam sometimes does and whatever, but the 3 of you are the main communicators. And I know that's intentional on his part, but it's so smart to do that. Like, and I know a lot of churches are running off of one person and all that. But that is scary, right? Like, for everything to be riding on one person. I think personally for me, when I was kind of learning first about like leadership and all this, there was always this concept of you should always be like prepping your second in command kind of thing, always prepping for you to get out of the way. So whatever you're doing, you're training somebody else, because God can move you at any moment, at any time. And you don't want that thing to fail or fall, or the people that you were serving in that position to like now be left out because you got moved somewhere else. And I think that could help us somewhat if we're pushing people into the spaces, particularly in church. Like, we should be pushing people into community, into discipleship groups, into small groups, into spaces where they can care for one another, so that everything is not falling on just the one preacher who's communicating from stage. And I think we talked about this before. Like, people are like, oh, he preached that good message, I must talk to him, and he's the only person that can like understand. And like, you might actually not be the right person, right? There might be someone else in our congregation or on staff or whatever who's actually more adept to deal with the situation you're going through. And then, you know, you don't get to talk to that person. Now there's offense, there's church out, this person, you know, and that's, you know, that's idol. That's idol worship.
Man.
Yeah. The whole time I've been thinking about what kind of dog I am. I know that has nothing to do with what you just said, and everything you said was really good.
That's cool, Dave.
But clearly I'm a golden retriever and Theo's a sheepdog.
Why?
Because he's nipping at all the sheep.
That's it.
He's like, I love you enough to nip you. And I'm just like, everybody's just a good boy. Chill. I'm just wagging the tail. I have no idea what kind of dog Max is.
All I see is my
Kacie.
10-year-old.
I wouldn't dare to put that on y'all.
Thanks.
Y'all are cats, I guess. I don't know.
Now we're
10-year-old chocolate
cat
lab.
ladies.
I have a 10 and a half year old chocolate lab, and she legitimately thinks she's still a 2-year-old puppy. She loves everybody. She's never bit she's never barked at anybody.
He's saying this
She's
in
just-
frustration, by the way. I don't. If you're not watching, he's saying very positive things about his dog in frustration.
Bro, she's just not a good guard dog. She doesn't like to swim or hunt. Like, she's a teddy bear. She just loves people. Dave's not that bad. I've watched him nip some sheep.
I definitely think I'd be a German Shepherd.
Yeah, you are. That's my favorite dog, first of all. So I don't know if you just said that.
No,
because that is absolutely
I'm not,
true.
but I really think I'd be a German Shepherd.
I feel like I don't know enough about dogs to answer.
Yeah,
this
she's
question.
fiercely loyal.
Absolutely.
She's super tough. Like, she can punch really hard, and then
Dogs can't punch.
yeah, well, they bite. I don't know. You just really, and then also, you are you will defend.
I sniff
you will,
things out for sure.
That is true.
sure.
That is true.
Yeah, yep. That it all tracks.
It really
all tracks
That's wild.
for sure.
Love it.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Man, this it's funny that you brought this up, because literally I was thinking before you said that, all this comes down to identity, right?
so weird.
What kind of dog
And
am
now
I?
we've all found identity in dogs, except for Maxine.
But
I mean,
like,
do you have one?
I don't know enough about dogs to give you anything
Not
about
a dog
dogs.
person.
I don't own dogs. Don't have dogs.
wait. Okay, so before I
No,
get back to
I'm very,
identity,
very
never had a dog growing
smart.
up.
No.
Wow,
My grandfather owned a dog,
Dog.
but it wasn't like my dog. I didn't live with it or anything like that.
interesting.
So, yeah, I never had a dog growing up.
Wow, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
They got
Um,
me a robot dog one time for Christmas.
Oh my gosh,
That's
I had
kinda
one
sad.
too.
You had a
It was-
robot dog?
It was
I
kind
did.
of
I had
sad.
one
It's kind
too.
of sad.
It was kind of
Mine
sad.
was
My
blue.
parents bought one, but it didn't work.
Silver.
Guys, I
Yeah,
think I
mine
know
was
what kind
blue
of
and
gift
silver.
we need to get for Max.
What'd you
No,
say?
what?
I know we need to pool together.
puppy.
No.
We need to get.
Uh-uh.
We need to
We
get
do
Max a
not.
gift.
No,
My
no.
husband is newly allergic to dogs too, so
Newly allergic. Here
came
we
up
are.
on
we're-
his test. Dog
Poor
fur.
guy.
God's
Oh my
allergic
God.
to people who are prideful, and Phil's
Phil's
newly
allergic
allergic
to
to dogs.
To
Yeah.
dogs.
See, everybody's getting allergies.
Yeah.
Once
Crazy.
again, it's gonna happen to me anytime now. I know. I'm about to get them.
Oh man. What was I even saying?
Identity.
Identity. All this comes back to identity, right? If we're talking about, you said it earlier when you said you got to know your why, right?
Yeah.
When you're chasing things with the ambition, the perfectionism versus excellence, the chasing platforms versus chasing the giver of the gift in the church. All these things come back down to identity. If I find my identity in the platform, if I find my identity in the hustle, if I find my identity in any of these things, I'm going to come up short. But if I find my identity in Christ, then all of those things don't really matter. And you find out those things are just seasons of life or tools that God wants to use for whatever. Comes back down to identity. So as we land this plane, words of wisdom for someone who is trying to figure out this thing when it comes down to ambition, when it comes down to identity. What are some things that you've learned over the years that kind of helped get you in pocket? You shared some earlier when you were talking about, that transition, but if you had to,
I think
Kacie
talking to
first.
people, I think talking to your trusted people and getting their perspective on what you seem to them.
Yeah.
Like what do I give off? And seeing if it matches what your drive is, what your ambition is. And if it doesn't, then that's where you go back to the drawing board. It's like, Lord, help me figure out this because I see this in me, but they said I see this.
that's good.
It's so good.
That's good.
I was thinking about, as you were talking, I remember years ago, I don't even know what this was part of, but I had to do like one of those review, 360 review things or whatever, but it wasn't for work. And it was like, ask, your trusted people, like what they see in you and blah, blah. One of the questions on there was like, what makes it hard to be your friend? And so I asked, my best friend, she's like, I'm like, oh, she's going to have a hard time thinking about this. The best friend, I'm like, without it, that she's like, you do everything yourself. She's like, you never ask for help. You never ask for advice. You just already, by the time you get to me, you've already figured it out. And she's like, and I actually want to be a part of helping you. And like, you don't, and like, that really rocked me for like,
Wow.
And it actually changed the nature of our friendship because in my mind, I was always like, I have to do it. The hustle, right? I've got to do it myself. I wasn't even thinking that there could be anyone in my world that would want to come alongside me through these decisions or whatever process or stuff like that. So like thinking about it like that there are actually people who want to come alongside us to give that feedback, to help us and make those decisions, to be a better person, I think is helpful. And the other thing I was going to say on a personal kind of thing, some people don't like having like systems or questions because it feels robotic. So maybe the kind of dog I am is a robotic dog. Maybe that is the kind of dog. We can think about it. But I love sometimes systems and questions and stuff. So I'm checking myself. I'm asking myself these questions sometimes when I'm in it. Am I focusing too much on me in this space? This thing that I'm after right now, did God say he wanted me here? If so, can I take a breath and relax in it, right? Can I have that like rhythm of Sabbath even in it where like I'm going to just choose a day and I'm not going to do nothing about this. Working here too, like I got to a point in my like job search that I was like, I'm just going to chill. Just gonna let God, whatever. And then the whole meeting with Tina happens, right? Which we talked about last episode. But, you know, it was the same thing. It's that like, okay, every time I try to go ahead and do all of the things, all I do is make a mess,
Yeah.
right? But if I just sit back and wait,
Yeah.
Yeah.
could something clearer come out of it? So just
That's
asking
good.
yourself, whatever set of those questions are to keep you in that middle and not operating in those extremes, I think is helpful.
Yeah. I'm just going to repeat what I've already said. Coming back to the identity thing, for me, the identity thing and the relationship with God versus the relationship with Moses kind of thing. You've got to develop a relationship with God so that you can find out your identity, so that you can find out what to chase, right? Real quick story. Told y'all I was playing music when I was 9 years old. And I'll never forget my music teacher. He had me playing Bach and Beethoven and all this. And, you know, got to a point where I was like, I'm pretty good. Like I'm pretty good at piano. And not only can I read music, I can play by ear. I can listen to the radio, and 3 seconds later, I'm playing the song, right? Well, this is before I discovered YouTube, and I found out that there's some kid across the world who's half my age who plays 3 times better than I do. And in that moment, I realized, Theo, you cannot find your identity as a keys player, as a musician, because there's always going to be someone that's better, right? But if I find my identity in being a child of God, there's only one Theo who's a child of God, who's going to have the gifts and the things that I bring to the table. So you've got to be willing to establish a relationship with God, so that you can find that identity, so that you can find out what he wants you to chase.
Yeah.
Dave?
The story of Paul, I would recommend anybody who's struggling with this, just like kind of see his transformation, because that spoke to me a lot early on. And it really, really helped me a lot, because here's a guy who did everything right according to what culture said that he grew up in. And he really was a perfectionist, to go on to your story. And he rose to the heights, and he was brilliant in every way and was awesome. But he had the wrong why. Like his why was ultimately misplaced, and he didn't even know it until one day everything came crashing down, because the God of the universe just revealed what his purpose would be. And he was like, I'm going to show him just how much he's going to suffer for my namesake. And then Paul does this amazing thing throughout all the letters that he writes, where he's like, hey, I could be showing you how awesome I am, and here's all the cool accolades that I could be touting to you. But all of these things, they're all rubbish compared to the excellency of knowing Jesus, my Lord.
Yeah.
And he just does that over and over again. And he's like, hey, all these other super apostle guys that are so awesome, all these mega TikTok preachers that are like super successful, all these celebrity pastors who are coming along and getting you to buy all their merch and download all of their podcasts and eat from out of their hand. He's like, yeah, I have some things I could say too. I've been beaten and shipwrecked. And he goes down the whole list. And he's like, but I'm not going to point any of that out. And I've never had to, for you to know the authority that I walk in, because I don't need your approval.
Yeah.
I don't have to prove that into any of that. And that just set me free in a way. And I'm still walking it out, honestly, but that really set me free initially and helped me like realize, first of all, that it only matters what Jesus says about me.
That's so
He's
good.
the only one that gets to define me. I don't even get to define me. That's a whole podcast. We don't get to choose our identity.
That's a good one.
We can only walk out the identity
You
that
just
God
gave
has.
Theo his next idea.
I was getting ready to say, join us next week on.
Like, that one we could go hard on, but for real, that's freeing. That's freeing. We don't have to like discover ourselves.
Yeah.
We just get to know him and listen, and he'll tell us. And hopefully it's not that same line that Paul got. And how much you're going to suffer for my namesake. Like, he earned that one, I guess, but.
So good. So good. Thank you, Sylvains, for being here. Always
Thanks
a
for
great
having us.
time. And as always, thank you, Maxine.
Happy to be here. I'm glad we got this together.
Oh, yeah. Y'all. You almost didn't get this episode.
You didn't.
We almost called it quits because
Yeah.
we just could not get it together. We were laughing. We were messing up
Mhm.
intros. It was.
Mhm.
I think our producer Tony's going to get you some bloopers at some point. But
Yeah.
look, I want to thank all of y'all for hanging in there with us and having these conversations, listening to these conversations, and then I'm just going to trust that you're going out and having these conversations because that's the point of this. If you're not sure how to even approach the conversation, listen to some of the things we're saying. If you're not sure how to digest some of it, listen to some of the things we're saying. But we're not the experts on it. We're just trying to get you having conversations. Talk to your leaders, talk to your friends. And until next time, we love y'all.
Living